you've ever got off the stage at a gig or a jam session and thought, you know, I just didn't play as good of a solo on stage as I did in the practice room, you probably need to spend some more time practicing your soloing, okay? And you probably are. You're probably working on some vocabulary, you're working on learning some tunes better, maybe you're even working on some phrasing if you're really deep in it. But there's a chance that you might not be working on the right thing for your level if you're still having the problem of like, my ideas don't come out as well as they do when I'm at home. So the reality is there's a lot to work on. If you want to get it right, you want to make sure you're working on the right skill sets at the right times in your development. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be breaking down how to get better at playing jazz drum solos in 9 levels of difficulty, starting with the simplest, most straightforward, so you can figure out where you are on your journey and practice the right thing. Honestly, this video might be a little bit of overkill. Like level 9 is something that most drummers will never even work on, but I'm not gonna hold anything back today. I wanna make sure I can help everyone here. Now, the first level you're gonna wanna learn for jazz solos is how to trade 4s, all right? This is when you're at the stage where you wanna go to your first jam session, but it's a length of solo that's digestible. It's not a full chorus. And the first thing you wanna learn is how to get through those 4s without getting lost. So trading 4s is playing 4 bars of time, and then 4 bars of solo. Right? It's very simple. Now, the strategy you're going to want to use to get through this is not counting, okay? Counting can work, but it takes a lot of brain power, and you want to use your brain power on soloing, okay? The strategy I recommend is by playing along with a play-along track. You can find a lot of really good ones here on YouTube. Something that has time for 4 bars and then maybe has a click for 4 bars. That way you can get used to feeling how long the trading 4s is. And you'll find that when you play with people versus when you try to practice trading 4s by yourself, it's gonna be a lot easier to feel how long the trading 4s are. So why not just practice like that, okay? Put on one of those tracks at home. If you can get through those trading 4s the right length of time without, you know, stumbling and fumbling or coming in early, then you know you're ready for the next level. But you're gonna start to feel like your solos are a little bit boring, they're a little bit bland, and you wanna make them more interesting and make them sound more like jazz. Now, once you can get through a trading 4s, you're gonna be ready for level 2, which is plugging and playing vocab. Okay, so you're gonna find that you get through these 4s, but it doesn't sound like jazz. It maybe sounds like a rock drummer or a rudimental drummer just getting through a trading 4s. So the way to make it sound more authentic so that other players know you're a real jazz musician is to get your ideas from the great jazz drummers. People like Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, Tony Williams, Art Blakey, right? And then just plug them right in. At this stage in your development, it's totally okay to just plug these ideas right in, okay? So the strategy you're going to use to work on this is 1, transcribe a lick from Philly Joe Jones or somebody like that, okay? I transcribed this paradiddle lick. It goes like this, right? Now I have that lick. I'm going to use it in trading 4s. I'm just going to move it around the drums. Just play it exactly how it is. Right? Everything I played there was jazzy, right? It fit the jazz vocabulary, and I fit it within a trading 4, okay? That's gonna be a little too simple. Add another phrase, okay? Here's a Philly Joe Jones phrase, right? I could add maybe this Max Roach 3 up, 1 down phrase. And I could add this Art Blakey and triplet 3 phrase, this one right here, right? Now, if I take those ideas, I could work all of them just plugging and playing them. But where it becomes really interesting is if I take those 4 ideas and I mix them together in a trading 4. Boom! All of a sudden, this is starting to sound like really fluent jazz vocabulary. I'm speaking jazz in the native tongue. And this is the thing that when other players hear, you're gonna be like, okay, cool. I can trust this guy or I can trust this gal because they have jazz vocabulary that I'm used to hearing, okay? What you're gonna find though is when you play these short phrases and you can only just plug and play them, they're gonna start to feel sort of monotonous. It's gonna kind of feel like, and you're almost like playing the same thing for every trading fours, right? So you need a way to make it more exciting, to vary up the way you're delivering these phrases so that it's more musical and exciting at this phrase, okay? So that's when you're ready for level 3, which is plug and play phrasing, okay? So phrasing is kind of like musical sentences, right? If vocab, like our little licks that we played, are like the words, then phrasing is how we put the words together with commas and nouns and verbs and structure so that it actually makes sense, okay? And our goal for this third level is that we can put our ideas together in different ways so that they sound more organic and more flowing, and we're not just plugging and playing, okay? The way you do this is by giving yourself what I call little phrasing roadmaps, okay? It's like you set out the phrasing you're gonna do beforehand and see if you can keep up with it, right? The first thing is to play 4 one-bar phrases, right? We already kind of did this with the earlier phrases. The simplest way is just right? Very, very simple. Now let's make it a little longer and let's play 2 two-bar phrases. Right? Right, already there you can hear the phrasing is different. It's a little bit longer of a sentence. Let me do another one. Right, 2 two-bar phrases. Now what starts to get interesting is when we mix these phrase lengths together, right? Instead of doing 2 two-bar phrases, what if I do a 2-bar phrase and 2 one-bar phrases? Right? That's more interesting. What if I do 2 one-bar phrases and then a 2-bar phrase? Right? Now you can do that forever. You can do any other variations you think of. You can do 3-bar phrases, you can do, 3 and a 1, you could do 1, 2, 1, any combination you want. Now you're done with this level when you can organize your 4s into 1, 2 different lengths of phrases. And it just kind of flows out naturally. You don't have to think super hard about it, okay? But what you're gonna find once you're doing this is like, up to this point we've only done trading 4s. But there's gonna be times at jam sessions and gigs where you need to play a full chorus solo, okay? So we need a way to think of phrasing that we can play longer solos and get through them without getting lost. And that's what the next level is for. Level 4 is called melody mapping, okay? So this is what you need when you want to play phrases that sound more organic and that they're longer and they have the potential to be full chorus solos, okay? So melody mapping is something my students at the jazz school use to take the phrasing of the melody and insert their own ideas so that they get the structure of the melody, but that they're not just playing the melody, they can actually put their own ideas into it, okay? Let me show you what I mean. So if you take the tune Doxy, the melody goes like this. Right? If I take that and I play that in triplets, 2, 3, 4. Right? All of a sudden, that is like this thing that sort of tastes like the melody already, but it doesn't sound boring. I'm not just playing the melody, I'm varying it, right? So it's tasteful, but also new and fresh, okay? I can do the same thing with 16th notes. 2, 3, 4. Alright, boom. So much potential just in doing that. Now I can take it a step further and just use the phrasing of it and do whatever ideas I want, right? Like the phrasing of this is da ba da ba da rest da ba do da da do ba do ba do da rest rest rest. Right? You have a 1-bar phrase with a little rest, a 1-bar phrase, and then another 1-bar phrase, and then a bar of rest. Okay? So I can take that and I can play whatever ideas I want. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? There's so many ideas just for doing that. You could spend hours doing that. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna make your solo ideas feel more organic. Instead of doing this kind of mathy way like we were with the roadmaps, where it's very plug and play, it's very cut and dry. With the melody mapping, you can go over the bar line, you can blend things a little bit because you're using this bigger picture map, okay? But you see there, even then, we still just did a 4-bar phrase, but that 4-bar phrase takes way less thinking, and it's gonna give us the potential to play the longer choruses in the next phase. Level 5 is playing full chorus solo. So you know you're ready for this when you can do melody mapping. You can play the melody in your head and play something else on the drums, right? But you want to be able to play full choruses without getting lost and having your bandmates come back in on one when you're done with the solo, okay? So basically what we need to do with this is we need to take our melody chunks and stack them together, almost like Legos, right? And make longer chunks so that we can stay organized. So Doxy, for example, you know, we played the A section. 2, 3. And then that same A section just repeats again. 2, 3, 4. Then there's a B section. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's melody map that section real quick. We have that ba ba ba, right? So it's a 1-bar phrase that lands on beat 4. There's a little bit of a long note, and then we have ba ba booty, pick up to the next bar, and then a 1-bar phrase. De de be do da, then another rest. Okay, so we have 1-bar phrase with a long note, pick up to a 1-bar phrase, rest. Okay, let's melody map that real quick. Right? You can hear the melody within that, but I'm not playing the melody, man. I'm playing much more than that, okay? So after that B section, we have one more A section. If we stack them all together, the melody maps, A, B, A, we should be able to get through the full chorus, and our band will know where we are. It's gonna sound a little something like this. Cool? That's the melody map for Doxy. Now you're gonna find that you can get through full chorus solos without getting lost. Your bandmates are gonna come back in on beat 1 after you're done. But what you're gonna find is that after playing a lot of these melody map solos, it feels a bit repetitive to just kind of base your solos off the melody every time. You're gonna want to be more free, like your favorite jazz drummers. They can play all sorts of different kind of phrasing. They're not just re-editing the melody over and over and over and over again, although that is one option, okay? So you want more options. That brings us to level 6, generating phrasing, okay? So you know you're ready for this when you can get through a whole solo with the melody mapping. You're very comfortable with, you know, the short 1 and 2 bar phrases. And now you want to create something that's a little bit more creative, a little bit more exciting, okay? Okay, so the strategy we're going to use for this is something I call obstacle courses. And an obstacle course is basically where you give yourself a very difficult pattern of phrasing to navigate through a chorus of solo or a couple choruses of solo, so that it forces you to kind of build up the muscles of thinking of phrasing in a different way. Okay, and that's going to eventually allow you to be more free with your phrasing. So let me show you what I mean. So imagine we're playing a 16-bar solo over Doxy, right? Let's say I start with 4 1-bar phrases, right? And then for the second A section, I play 2 2-bar phrases, right? And then for the B section, I'm going to play, let's say, 1 long 4-bar phrase, and then for the last A, I'm going to play another 1-bar phrase, and then I'm going to play a 3-bar phrase, okay? So you can see, this doesn't match the phrasing of Doxy. The phrasing of Doxy is like, 3, 4. Right? It's more like this every single time. Okay, so we're going against the grain, or we're contrasting the grain of the tune. But if I can pull this off, then it's going to be, it's going to give me more options for my phrasing that I can navigate through this chorus in an interesting way. Okay, let's give it a go. So there you have it. There's a full chorus solo with an obstacle chorus. Now, the way you want to practice this is make yourself the obstacle chorus, then really stick with it. And you want to make sure when you stick with it that you're actually playing the phrasing right and that you're not getting off of the obstacle chorus, okay? So you're probably thinking, how do I know if I'm getting the phrasing right? Well, one way is to record yourself, but an even better way is to get some feedback. Okay, so you need somebody who has done this before to look at you and make sure you're doing this right so that it actually comes out when you get on the bandstand. That's exactly what I do with my students at the jazz school. We don't just work on phrasing there. We also work on vocabulary. We work on learning the tunes that you need to go to a jam session. We work on, how to meet players and how to get better and play with them and book gigs and get hired by your first bands and all the things that you need to actually be a complete jazz musician. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and book a time in the calendar below. There's a link down below the jazz school that you'll be able to watch a short video about what exactly it is that I do with my students at the jazz school, what we work on, and see if it's something that you're interested in. And then you'll be able to book a time with me where on that call, I'm gonna just get clear on exactly what it is you're struggling with. And then I'll just give you a game plan, A to Z, on what you need to work on. If it's something you wanna work on together, then we'll talk about what that looks like. So excited to meet you if that's something you're interested in. But if not, let's keep on going to the next level. You're done with level 6 when you're able to navigate through solos in a more organic, fluid way, varying your phrasing constantly, okay? And it just kind of comes out of you. Now, what you're gonna find is that sometimes your solos, even though they make sense because you're putting things together in a logical way, they sometimes feel flat and uninteresting. They feel like they don't have that dynamic emotion that you get from watching somebody like Brian Blade play. You know what I mean? And so what you need to do is you need to start to create some more drama in your solos. And the way that we do this is with level 7 targets and release points. Okay? So the goal of this is that people don't just feel your subdivision and your ideas, but they can feel your energy and your vibe in the moment when you're playing solos, whether a musician or not, because you're creating a lot of drama, okay? So the way we do this is we set up a target and release map. Okay, so first, what are targets and what are releases? A release is where you build tension all the way till the end of the phrase and then you release it, you play a big crash or something like that on beat 1 or the end of 4, at the end of the phrase, okay? A target is when you just aim to land on a specific note, right? Like you just want to play your whole phrase and have the phrase kind of end on a specific note. There's not a ton of difference between them. I would just say a release is a big dramatic gesture and a target can just be like a short note or it can be a quiet note or something like that, okay? For our intents and purposes, we're going to kind of meld them together, all right? So the way to practice this is to create a target and release map, all right? So check this out. I have the form for just friends mapped out here, right? I have the A, the B, I have another A down here, and then we'll call this C, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create these little arrows for our targets, all right? So let's say I'm gonna have a release on beat 1 of the first bar, and then 2 bars later, another release, okay? And then I want to change the phrasing a little bit and release on the second bar of the phrase, and then on the 4th bar of the phrase. Okay, this is getting interesting. Then I'm gonna release again at the top of this, but then I wanna start changing things. I wanna release on the 4th bar. So now I have a 3-bar phrase and another 3-bar phrase, okay? And then I'm gonna release here, okay? You'll notice this is very similar to melody mapping. What I would say is different about it is that melody mapping was more about the phrase lengths and the target and release is more about where you're gonna land, right? It's where you're aiming as opposed to how long it is, okay? So you'll see that sometimes I leave space in here, stuff like that. That's all fair game, okay? So now we're on the second A section. Now, this is a lot pretty straightforward. I think now what I want to do is deceive expectations a little bit. I'm going to put a little rest here, and then I'm going to resolve on beat 2 of this bar, okay? And then I want to resolve 4 bars later on beat, let's say resolve on beat 3 this time, okay? So now I'm really being restrictive here. This is some interesting stuff, okay? And then let's say that that phrase, okay, I'm going to resolve on the second bar of the C section, and then the song ends with, now we're just friends. It ends right there, so I'm going to aim to resolve that to bring it all home, okay? So now I've got my target and release map for just friends. I'm going to solo over it and see if I can nail all those targets and releases, see if you can hear it. Now I'm going to have this one pulled up in front of me, and I'm going to be looking at it while we do it, because that's how I recommend you practice this stuff at first. It's really, really restrictive, and give yourself every hint you can. All right, let's give it a go. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. That is really, really fun. And you can see like where it got to that release on beat 2. Man, I just started smiling because it's so cool. It's so fun, it's interesting. And that's how you make your solos more exciting, is you have to do things that excite you, you know? The audience is gonna be excited when you're excited. So you have to give yourself these little puzzles that are gonna make it fun for you to improvise. Now, you'll notice that was highly restrictive. I had to look at that little sheet that I just drew up for myself because it's the first time I'm seeing it, right? In order to keep track of it. And the gears were really turning in order to phrase in that interesting way. That's the point, right? When you go up on stage, are you going to be trying to nail this release map that you made? No, that's not the point. What it does is when you practice that restrictively, it makes it so that you build new brain connections so that you have new options. And so the last step of all these phrasing exercises is always to just play, okay? To just play and see what comes out. And what you're gonna find is that if you did it right, if you did enough reps, that these different release points kind of just naturally come out in your playing. Like I'll tell you for a fact, I played a gig the other night, and on the third chorus of something, I played a release on beat 2. And it's only because I gave myself these kind of restrictions that I even discovered something like that and heard it when I was on stage just relaxing, being in the moment, okay? That's how you want to practice these things. Restrictions, then just play, let it come out. Okay, so if you made it this far, you're playing some pretty dang cool jazz drum solos, but what it's gonna start to feel like is like you're a little bit rambling a ton of ideas without any inherent, really musical structure, right? You have the phrasing structure, you have vocab, you have tension and release, you're creating some moments, but it will lack the kind of like musical structure that something like a Beethoven, or like the Sonny Rollins solo on St. Thomas, where he's just working one idea. It's gonna lack that, okay? So what you wanna do next is you wanna create something that the audience can grab onto and understand, and they can hear you working it out. And that's why level 8 is thematic development, okay? You're ready for this when you have a ton of control over your phrasing, over your instrument. You can vary things in interesting ways. You can start them on different beats, end them on different beats, and you want to make things more musical, okay? So the way that I recommend doing this is working out one idea for, you know, a longer period of time. For example, let's take the song Take the A Train, right? Ba, dee, do, dee, dee, da, right? That's the first couple bars. What if I played that melody on the drums? Right? Just simple statement of the melody. What if I take that idea, ba, boo, bo, de, and I just work that one idea for like, I don't know, half a chorus. That ended up being a full chorus. I got carried away. Right? But you see how I was working the idea? I just took the same idea and I stated it, and then I stated it shorter, right? You can play, or you can play, right? You can play it longer, right? How many ways can you play this? Can you play it backwards? Right? Can you take one part of it and isolate it, like the last part? Right? It's so simple, but this is what makes really, really musical jazz drummers, people like Ari Honig, people like Matt Wilson, is they can take one idea and just work with it. They can use what they got. Now, you know you're done with this when you can take one idea and you can play it for a whole chorus or more. Sometimes I used to just sit down and play one idea for an hour and just see what I could get out of it. That kind of limitation will push you to be so creative. And that's kind of like a big theme of this video, is a lot of the things I'm giving you are limitations, because limitations are what make you creative. If you force yourself into a little box, you're gonna have to be very creative in order to get out or to make something useful in that box, okay? So that's how you wanna practice. Very limited in the practice room, and then very free when you get on stage, okay? So what you're gonna find once you're done with this is, man, the audience will just get sucked into your solos. One of my students did this, and you could hear the audience go, woo! Like, he sent me a recording of the video where he played a solo like this. He played one idea for like half a chorus, and the audience was losing their mind because they just get it, okay? But what you're gonna find is that you don't have, I mean, you're doing pretty well at this point, let's be honest. But the thing that might be missing is the kind of energy and vibe and momentum that just really has an impact on people when you're performing, right? There's this one drummer here in Seattle that I see sometimes, and he plays these solos where he'll play something very, 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 very simple, and then he'll play a big accent and leave space, and then come back in right on time, and the audience loses their mind every single time, even though it's so simple. And the reason is because of the energy of the solo, okay? And that's why level 9 is when we're gonna focus on the energy most of all. And that's when we're focusing on storytelling arcs, okay? So what are storytelling arcs? It's where you take the whole course of a solo and you make a shape for it, again, a limitation that forces you to gradually make it more interesting, make it more exciting, make it dramatic, right? And you use that limitation as a way to shape your solo, okay? So let's imagine this. Let's say I'm gonna play a solo on a blues, okay? 12-bar choruses. The first chorus, I'm gonna start very simple. And I'm gonna kind of use some thematic development. I'm gonna work one idea, you know, and leave some open space, kind of mess around with the phrasing. The second chorus, I'm gonna start plugging in some of my vocab, some of my Philly Joe Jones, some of my Greg Hutchinson, right? Some of my stuff. And I'm gonna be a little bit more active. And then the third chorus, I'm gonna be bombastic. I'm gonna play a lot of notes if I want to. I'm gonna make the phrasing very strange and disjunct if I feel like it, okay? But hopefully, if I do that first, second, third chorus, the choruses will gradually get more exciting and it's gonna create some drama, okay? Here we go, let's do it. Now, as always, the way you're going to want to practice this is at first, give yourself a map like I did, first chorus, second chorus, third chorus. Be very strict to it, make sure you actually do it. But then as always, at the end, just play. Just let your intuition come out because you put on all this time practicing to train it, okay? Now, once you're doing this, you're going to be able to play emotional, exciting solos that people understand. The phrasing's good, the vocabulary is good, it sounds like great jazz music, and more people are going to want to play with you. But you're going to have another problem. That other problem is you're going to be too busy because you got all these gigs. But alas, solos are not the only important part of being a great jazz drummer. You're also going to need a great jazz ride cymbal feel. So if you found this video interesting, click here to watch my next video on 5 jazz ride cymbal patterns that sound professional. If you want to see more like this, I'm planning on making more levels videos like this in the future. You can subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you to the next one. What a beast.